What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where every single week I, Graham G.S. and Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network. Today we're talking the latest edition of WWE Ride Along entitled WrestleMania Way from WrestleMania Sunday itself, with DX's New Age Outlaws and X-Pac, as well as the Divas of Doom, Natalya and Beth Phoenix. We had our last episode of Ride Along about a month ago with The New Day, and I think the other pairing was Andrade Cien Almas and Zelina Vega. I think Aleister Black will actually be on Ride Along, and I mentioned that because he was on the phone with Zelina on her episode of Ride Along last month, which I think was filmed right after Elimination Chamber. Andrade, or rather Aleister, will be on the show soon with Ricochet, and I think Rusev might be on another episode if that wasn't an old episode they showed here in the opening sequence. And there was another pairing too that I'm forgetting about here. But yeah, we had DX and the Divas of Doom on this edition in two separate cars, of course. They left Brooklyn on the morning of WrestleMania 35 en route to MetLife Stadium, which it's only about 13 miles, but it takes about an hour with all the fucking traffic and everything else. They were very lucky they didn't have to take the transit, which was atrocious, packed with people. It was awful. MetLife is fucking terrible to get to, even worse to leave from, especially after an event like WrestleMania, myself speaking from personal experience. So thankfully they didn't have to deal with that. But you did see kind of the chaos that was surrounding MetLife Stadium even before the show, the morning of, when the Divas of Doom arrived at the arena in time for Mania, which I'll talk about at the end of this episode. But they kick off the episode spray painting the car. That is DX. They spray paint Suck It, DX, X-Pac in the back of their car. I don't know if that's Billy Gunn's car or a rental. I don't know why they were able to spray paint stuff on the side of the car and on the back of the car, but it was pretty cool. Made them pretty, pretty visible to the naked eye to everyone in New York City, which is packed with people anyway, and the people at the arena itself that were waiting outside of MetLife before WrestleMania that Sunday morning. But it was pretty cool. They called the Hall of Fame organized chaos, which it was. I mean, they would talk about personal stuff and then do DX skits. Like they brought up the boob comment where X-Pac was talking about signing women's breasts back in the day during the Attitude Era. He brought that up during the Hall of Fame speech right after talking about how he never thought he would be alive to see himself inducted into the Hall of Fame. So it was a very entertaining speech, but they talked about how up and down it was and how it was all over the place. Did not mention how they were able to mention Vince McMahon's name, though, and how when I think Bret Hart did it earlier on in the evening at the Hall of Fame, the guy who wrote Bret Hart's speech for him, or at least contributed and helped out Bret, was fired, or quit before he can get fired. They didn't mention that, which obviously they wouldn't bring that up, but I just thought it was funny. They didn't probably even know, even though it did happen the night of the Hall of Fame. But anyway, Beth talked about how she loved how everyone was wearing the Bret Hart sunglasses, which WWE officials probably gave out at the Hall of Fame, but everyone in the front few rows, including Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch and a few other people, were wearing the signature shades of Bret Hart when Bret Hart made his entrance for the Hall of Fame, which I thought was really cool. And Natalya talked about how Bret told her after the Hall of Fame, "I really hope I made your dad, Jim Neidhart, proud with our speech and his induction, the induction of Jim Neidhart into the Hall of Fame that night," which was really cool. DX they talk about showing off their Hall of Fame rings right after the Hall of Fame and kind of putting it in people's faces and how they were wearing it on their fingers. X-Pac mentioned how he had to put it on his middle finger because it kept falling off his index finger. I guess it was too small or something, or his finger was too small, which is why it was so constantly falling off. Meanwhile, Beth talks about the Kill Billy episode. Speaking of Billy Gunn, she talks about the Kill Billy episode from the Edge and Christian show, the second season. I guess she was there when they wrote the second season. You see a picture of Edge and Christian sitting down at his place, at Edge's place, with Beth, with Tommy Dreamer there, to write the entire season. And the Kill Billy episode, which I did review here on the channel many, many months ago, if you want to go back and check it out, was obviously a parody of Kill Bill, the old Quentin Tarantino movie. It was a great episode with Beth Phoenix kind of playing the role of the main protagonist in the film. Meanwhile, DX drive through New York City and encounter many interesting people, to say the least. Beth Phoenix gives Natalya props for taking part in Total Divas, which they didn't have back in the day when Beth was first in the company. When she left in late 2012, they started filming for Total Divas like in early 2013. So she was never a part of that process. So she's backstage. She sees the cameras constantly on Natalya, catching her in important moments. And Natalya talks about how it's a fun show to be a part of, but it's also very, can be very, what's the right word here? Draining. because, she's trying to prepare for a serious match, a serious moment, and she's being asked about fucking Lana's underwear or something stupid. Not fucking Lana's underwear, but you know what I'm saying, like some stupid shit like that. DX talk about the Brooklyn Bridge and being on it and how amazing it is, blah, blah, blah. Beth talks about, she mentions here, that her favorite time in her career was tagging with Natalya from like 2010 to 2011, whether they were baby faces or the heels as the Divas of Doom. They recall the Tables TLC 2010 tag team match against Lay Cool, which I thought was a very good match and still is to this day. And Beth also talked about how her last match was 15 seconds. If I remember correctly, I think it was back in October 2012. She had a match with AJ Lee. Beth won. The match was then restarted, and AJ Lee won in like 15 seconds. So technically, Beth's last match before this recent road to WrestleMania was 15 seconds long and a loss to AJ Lee. So she was very frustrated when she left, and she didn't like how her career ended off, which is why it was very important to her to come back for this recent run with Natalya to end her career on the right note. Road Dogg talked about how he's always wanted to do a paranormal outlaw show, but Billy Gunn is so scared of that stuff he wants no part of it. Divas of Doom talk about being excited for Kofi Mania at WrestleMania. Natalya actually brought up here how she had her first week in FCW with Kofi Kingston. It was his first week in FCW too. So they were kind of brought up in the business together, and they're still here to this day succeeding, which is cool. Kofi Kingston now the WWE champion. Natalya was the SmackDown Women's champion a year or two ago, which is cool. Beth also praised Natalya for being one of the toughest people, if not the toughest person, male or female, she has ever met. We saw footage of a match Natalya had at a house show back in 2016. She knocked her teeth out during the course of the match, finished the match anyway after collecting her teeth. And we see a picture of Natalya after the match. I think it was her two front teeth. It was a picture of her smiling with Renee Young, so it actually did happen. DX, remember mooning people back in the Attitude Era. For what reason, I have no idea why. They also recalled being on stage with Motley Crue on Raw in the Attitude Era many, many years ago, I think back in like 1998. And then everyone arrives at the arena in time for rehearsals. The Divas of Doom, actually, Beth and Natalya, get to the arena. They have to ask like 3 or 4 different people, where the fuck is Lot G? Because we have no idea where to go. It says Lot G on their like little badges, on their backstage passes sort of thing. But no one knows where the fuck to go, which is such a fitting ending to this episode because MetLife Stadium, and navigation-wise, is terrible. It is so bad. Almost as bad as the Camping World Stadium arena in Florida and Orlando for WrestleMania 33. That was equally atrocious. But this might have been even worse considering how long it took us to get out of that arena on the night of WrestleMania, if not like early Sunday or Monday morning, because we didn't leave that arena until like 2:30. It was pretty bad. But nonetheless, guys, that does it for this edition of WWE Ride Along entitled WrestleMania Way. So check it out on the WWE Network at your leisure. Be sure to like this video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more content. I'll be back tomorrow with my review of the latest episode of Ms. and Mrs. as seen on the USA Network from this past week. Until then, guys, have a great rest of your weekend, and I'm Graham G.S. Matthews. I'll catch your ass down the road.